Hi, it's Mark from TLR. I'm here with Bernie Pawlik. Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, BC, Canada. Vancouver's best auto service experience, 23-time winners, 23-time winners of best auto repair in Vancouver as voted by their customers. And we're talking cars. How you doing, Bernie?
Doing very well.
2008 Volvo XC70 had some sort of power window problem. What was going on with this Volvo?
Yeah, so our client brought the vehicle to us. The left rear power window wasn't working. Also the door lock as well. And there were occasional times when it would work, but most of the time it wouldn't. So that's the issue we faced.
So what kind of testing and diagnosis process did you go through?
Well, because of the kind of car with modern computer technology, we hooked our scan tool up and we looked to see what sort of signals we're getting from the various switches in the vehicle. And from the driver's main switch, we could see in the computer that all the commands to the power windows were as they should be and what we expected, but the window wouldn't work. And there's bi-directional control, so we were able to operate some windows, but we couldn't operate the left rear window through that control.
So digging into this now, how did you go a little bit further?
So what we would do in any older car without computer system, that is pull the door panel off the left rear door, start testing the wiring. Inside, it's a pretty complicated setup. I mean, there's your basic power window motor and door lock actuator, like you'll find in any car that's been built in the last 50 years. But what is more complex is there's a door module. There's a module in every door. A computer sends a signal from the body control module. When it gets a signal from whichever switches, it gets processed through that computer, and that will send the signal to the motors to actuate it. So that wasn't working. So we had to do some testing on the wiring. And the area that we tested for basic power and grounds. All those were present. But the one area that we started focusing on is it's called a Lin Bus System. It's a computer bus system, a communication system between the computers that control the window system. So those were the next series of tests that we did, because clearly that issue wasn't getting the proper signal from somewhere, either by broken wire, defective module, or something in that area.
So how do you test the Lin Bus system?
Well, we use a lab scope, and I'll show you some testing. We'll just do a little picture show here. You should see a picture of a nice silver Volvo. So this is basically on a lab scope. A lab scope is basically, it tracks time and voltage. And you can see at this point, this is a 0 volts, this is 12 volts, and somewhere around a little under 12 volts, maybe 11 is the highest voltage you get, and about 1 volt is sort of the bottom end. And this signal will switch back and forth in various patterns, but it's key to have these fluctuations. Now, what we were getting when we hooked our test probe up to the Lin Bus wire on the left rear module is that it was basically stuck at 10 volts. It's just a solid line going across the screen, obviously a problem. So we pulled the driver's door panel off where the door module is, and we found it had this signal that we're looking at here. We unplugged the other door modules to make sure there wasn't anything going on there. There was no signal coming from the Lin Bus system to this door module, probably a broken wire somewhere along the line. So that's kind of how the diagnosis goes. It's time consuming. That's basically what we found. Just kind of an idea here. This is a wiring diagram. I always show these because I really like people to know the complexity of what we're dealing with a car. It's not just a matter of let's plug our scan tool in. Oh, there's the problem. Here it is. Let's fix it. And this often takes a few hours worth of dedicated time to fix these issues. So this is just one example, but this is the left rear door module. You can see there are about 20 wires going in and out of this, powers, grounds, signals, power to the motors, power to the power door lock. And in this one wire that I've circled here, it says computer data lines. That's the Lin Bus line. This is where it's supposed to get that fluctuating signal, which it was not. So those was our diagnosis. So you probably wonder, what did we do next?
What did you do next, Bernie?
So we kind of figure at this point, you got to kind of think, well, where would the most likely chance of a broken wire be? And it would probably be the driver's door, because that gets open and closed more times than anything. It gets the most exercise and gets the most wear. So we started pulling wiring apart that went into the driver's door through the door jamb, and we found a broken wire. And here's a couple of pictures. So the red arrow points to our broken wire here, which is part of this main connector to the driver's door. And finally, one more shot. Again, you can see the wire broken off. So we basically repaired the wire, soldered, heat shrunk, extended. We do whatever we need to do to make sure it's reliable and will last for another 10, 15 years. And that's basically the repair done. After that, everything came back to life in the rear door.
Essentially, the Lin Bus, your scan tools, when you're checking things, are going to point in a general direction most of the time without being very specific about, okay, here somewhere in these miles of wiring, literally miles of wiring in the car, hidden in all kinds of cavities all over the place, there's a problem in one of these somewhere. It'll tell you perhaps which one, but it won't tell you where. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. The scan tool really is just a direction of where to go for repairs. And interestingly enough, I mean, we have a tech support team with the scan tools we have, and we'll often call them or send a data file in saying, hey, here's what's going on. Have you got some thoughts or suggestions? Because most of these things we find are first time repairs, and there's a whole team of people that we have. So when you come to us, you've got that backing of a lot of experience, which is what you get at either dealership, manufacturer level. And some of what we have is probably even better. But anyway, so we sent the file off with these particular trouble codes that we obtained out of the computer. And the tech rep who's helping us suggested it probably was a module, because that's almost always what goes wrong. Well, if we just go, let's just change the module, we would have wasted the customer's money and been doing more diagnosis for free. So from there, it just gives us a direction to understand how the circuit works and the information, and then we can go from there. So, some repairs are simple. A lot of them are not. I think it's just important to know that when you have something that's going on in your vehicle.
And plus, part of it's experience, like being able to know that, oh, the rear window isn't working. Let's just tear the rear door apart, and that maybe we'll find it. Kind of the guess and by golly method of diagnosis, which you don't use.
No, we don't.
Basically, you use a more thoughtful, true problem diagnosis way of finding the actual issue.
Yeah, it's very important to do that and follow structures and procedures. And that's the best way to find the issue. And sometimes you go, okay, well, let's just start it where it's most probably a problem, and which we did the driver's door, and that's where it was. I mean, we could have started tearing the wiring apart at the rear door and through the rest of the vehicle, but it's like probabilities of where things going to happen. The other area, when we find a wiring issue on a car, we'll often ask a client, hey, has this car been in an accident recently, or do you know anything about accident history? Because again, wires don't normally fail for no reason. They're pretty durable. They could last 100 years, but sometimes there's a reason. Sometimes it's the way something's manufactured, but when there's something that moves, it's in a spot where something is moving, that's where a wire can often be faulty. Or if there's been a collision and, there's been repairs done and maybe it hasn't been done properly, or, we see that a lot. So it's all about asking the right questions too.
So after the repair, everything worked fine?
Yep, windows good, door lock fine, everything back to normal. And so really, I mean, it was a time-consuming repair and costly in that manner, but no expensive parts were required. These door modules are expensive. They often require reprogramming on Volvos, which I don't know why, but they do. You have to program the module for the door. Even if you change a driver's door switch on a Volvo, you have to reprogram the computer for the door switch on many models. So it's kind of crazy. It's not, you think, why? But the way it's built.
And how are these XC70 Volvos for reliability?
Well, overall, I'd say pretty good. This car's got over 200,000 kilometers. It's a 2008. So what's that make it? 13 years old now. It's a fair bit of mileage. One thing we did find is there were some oil leaks on the engine, which looked to be probably a major repair if the owner takes that on. They're not severe leaks, but we have done the rear differential on this vehicle. They're a bit of a quirky design vehicle. They're a little more expensive than average to fix, but overall a pretty good car. I think sometimes when you give a car time to age out, you can kind of see whether it's good or not. And I think these are pretty good cars. Just expect things like the rear differential. If it hasn't been done, you'll be doing it.
They do a lot of differentials, rear differentials for Volvos and Land Rovers. If you need some service for your Volvo in Vancouver, the guys to see your Pawlik Automotive, you can reach them at 604-327-7112. Or check out the website, pawlikautomotive.com. You can book online there now, or check out the YouTube channel, Pawlik Auto Repair. Hundreds on both those places, hundreds, not exaggerating, over 500, over almost 600 videos, almost 700, I think, videos. All makes and models, types of repairs. We've been doing this for 9 years. There's a ton of stuff. Thank you for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.